probably the most different between the rabbit and the two carnivores. So in a cat, and the mink is similar, the sartorius is this kind of big muscle that lies along the front of the thigh and then comes down along the front and then the inner surface of the thigh here. So it's kind of crossing the front of the thigh. And that's this thing here and here. You guys see that okay? Okay. And in the mink, it's doing exactly the same thing. Here's the sartorius in the mink. It's been cut, but there it is crossing sort of the front and medial side of the thigh. In the rabbit, the sartorius is a much smaller, thin, little tiny muscle, and it lies exclusively on the medial side of the thigh. And it's this tiny little guy that you can see right here. This little thing running along is the sartorius. So that is the most different thing between all these animals, is the sartorius. So just be aware of that. Next muscle is the tensor fascia lati, and the fascia lata is literally means the broad fascia, so the broad sheet of connective tissue over the side of the thigh. The tensor fascia lati is this muscle here that comes off at the front of the pelvic girdle, comes down like this, and it runs into that fascia. And most of it's been removed, but you can still see some of that fascia here that it's connecting into. Okay, so that's the tensor fascia lati. On the cat, we can see the same thing here. On the weasel, why am I calling it a weasel? It is a weasel. It's in the weasel family. It's a mink, and on the mink, it's this little guy here, okay, and then on the rabbit, I guess it's on this side here, it's actually a really big and robust muscle. It's much bigger on the rabbit than on either the other ones. It's this one right here, and it's kind of confusing because it looks like it's in the place where the sartorius is in the cat and the mink, but this is the tensor fascia lati. The rabbit, and it's a big muscle, this whole thing here. Okay. And you can see fascia lata. Okay. Cool. Biceps femoris. This is one that you guys should like because it's big, it's obvious on the lateral side of the, I just kind of put this all back together again, but it's this muscle right here, it's biceps femoris. I mentioned in people it has two heads. In our critters it's just got one. But this is part of the hamstrings group of muscles. It's muscle that is really important as a retractor of the thigh and a flexor of the knee. Okay. That's biceps femoris in the cat. Here's the same muscle in the mink. And here is the same muscle in the rabbit. Good? Yeah. If anything, if you ever feel like, really, that's the same muscle? I don't, or if there's any question, don't hesitate to stop me, because otherwise I'm just going to keep going. And if you guys can't see anything, what's that?
It's a good quiz question.
Biceps femoris, you like that one? Because it's big, it's obvious.
Like the same little.
It looks similar, doesn't it? Yes. It's, okay. This is a little bit of a funny order that they're listed in here, but this is the order they went through in Walker, so we'll just follow it. So then we get to semitendinosus, and the semitendinosus is another one of the, what am I trying to say? It's part of the hamstrings group as well, and the semitendinosus we can see here as this muscle running along like this, kind of deep, under biceps femoris when we flip it up. And then there's another muscle that you'll see that's gotten cut off, but it had a thin sheet of connective tissue running along here. You see this at all on your phone? Your phone can see it if you can. Okay. Connecting it, it's tendon, and this is the caudofemoralis muscle. Okay, and that lies, if we put the biceps back here, it lies just at the front border of the biceps femoris. That's the caudofemoralis, whereas semitendinosus is deep in here.
back one. I thought that was the tendinosus and the
wait.
membranosus
Oh,
was inside.
no, you are right. I got myself confused. See, keep me honest. Thank you. This is the semitendinosus. It got torn up a little bit, and that's why I was recognizing. And this is the semimembranosus. Thank you. Semitendinosus, semimembranosus. Fix that, Jackie. Edit it out. Okay. So then on this guy here again is biceps femoris on the rabbit. Pull that back. This is the cauda femoralis of the rabbit, and it's much bigger in the rabbit than it is in the cat. And then this muscle here better be semitendinosus on the rabbit, and it got cut off, but it lay just like that. Okay. And then the same thing on the mink. So here's again biceps femoris. The cauda femoralis, I think on the mink, is more or less non-existent. I don't really think they have a good cauda femoralis. I never found a good one in them. But they do have a good semitendinosus, and that's this muscle right here, semitendinosus.
What about the semimembranosus in those two?
Okay, we're getting there. I don't know why it's listed later, but I'm just following the order. But I guess we could do it as long as we're here. So this is semitendinosus here. This is semimembranosus.
All right.
Okay. So the tendinosus, this is, again, for you guys over there, semitendinosus, semimembranosus. The semitendinosus comes further down the shank than the semimembranosus does. And it also tends to be thinner, which is why I should have really realized that wasn't it. But anyway, so that's on this guy. And then here, the same thing. This is the semitendinosus here, and the semimembranosus here. Okay, then we get to the gluteal group, and those are the butt muscles. You kind of got that properly, gluteal group. The tensor fascia lati here is actually part of the gluteal group. So that's really the most anterior of the gluteal group muscles. And then coming back from there, we have this big one on the pelvic girdle, and that's the gluteus medius. Yeah, medius. So that's gluteus medius. And that's actually the biggest muscle in these animals. And then lying more posteriorly or caudally, and also lying superficial to it, is this one here, and that's the gluteus superficialis, which is the same as gluteus maximus. Same thing, so either is fine. Okay, and then I don't believe we're in there yet, but if you cut deep through gluteus medius, you would see gluteus profundus or gluteus minimus lying deep to it. Okay. I'm not sure if any of you guys got there, but it's okay. I'll forgive you. Let's see. On the mink, kind of the same thing. Here again is sartorius, tensor fascia lati, and then here is gluteus medius, and I'm wondering, did the superficialis get separated out on here?
Yeah, you told me to cut it, remember? Oh wait, no, that was something else. Never mind.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's a little slip in the back, and it's not quite cleaned up on this mink, but this main part that we're seeing here is the gluteus medius. Okay. Superficialis is going to be back in there. And on the rabbit, kind of the same deal. Here's gluteus medius, this big guy here, and the superficialis is this component in here, which is actually separated off pretty nicely. You see that? That's the gluteus superficialis. Okay. And the glutes, in general, if you look at what they're doing, they're basically going to be abductors of the hip joint. They're basically pulling the leg out to the side. Okay. quadriceps. So the quadriceps group in general is on the front of the thigh. And look at this cat here. It's a little, this tensor fascia lati is always a little annoying. It's kind of in the way of everything. We'll try to ignore it. Quadriceps has 4 parts to it, hence the name quadriceps. This part that's lateral is the vastus lateralis. Then there's a part that lies medially here. That is the vastus medialis. You see that at all, right in there? Okay. And then in between vastus lateralis and vastus medialis is a part that runs straight down the front of the thigh here. And that's called the...
Vastus lateralis.
No,
Intermediate.
we got all kinds of ideas. It's not the one of the vasti.
Rectus.
Oh,
femoris.
rectus?
That's the rectus femoris, yeah, which literally means straight muscle of the thigh, because it's running straight down the front of the thigh. So that's the rectus femoris. And then to find the vastus intermedius, you have to look underneath rectus femoris. And we can see it actually from the medial side here. Do you see that? That's vastus intermedius. Or okay, and I'm going to show you guys. I know nobody over there can see that at all. So here's vastus medialis, that's rectus femoris, that's vastus intermedius. And it's kind of sandwiched deep to rectus femoris between vastus medialis and vastus lateralis. Okay.
Wait, sandwich between what?
It's basically between the vastus medialis and vastus lateralis and deep to or underneath the rectus femoris. Okay. So let's look at the mink. They're very cute. There's this cute little stubby legs, but there's this one on the lateral side, so that would be
Vastus lateralis.
vastus lateralis, and then here on the medial side,
Vastus medialis.
and then this thing in between,
Rectus
that's the rectus femoris. Yep. And then the vastus intermedius, you have to look kind of way down in there, but this thing deep in there is the intermedius. Maria doesn't look like she believes me.
Oh,
Right
okay,
there.
I see it, yeah.
Okay. Okay, so for you guys again. So here